Is this an alien ghost ship? Coming up next on Deceptions of the Ages News. Hello everybody and welcome back to Deceptions of the Ages News. This is the channel where we talk about the three topics mentioned in my book, Deceptions of the Ages, Mormons, Freemasons, and Extraterrestrials. Today we're going to talk about extraterrestrials. Specifically, we're going to talk about what is this object? The first announcement is I want to say thank you to everybody who's subscribing. My channel is barely a month old, but I've already reached over 30 subscribers. So I'd like to say thank you to you guys. And I'd also like to say thank you to everybody who's watching and commenting on these videos. I try to do the best I can. Okay, the next announcement I need to make very quickly is that I know I said I will post every day, but I have to go in for surgery tomorrow. It's nothing big, but I won't be posting probably until later on in the week because I'll have to recover for a few days, and I don't know how long that's going to take. So from today until you see me again, you guys just take care, watch some of the old videos until I get back. And again, thanks for subscribing. All right, back to business. Now, the first thing I want to say is I would like to say Tyler at Secure Team 10, he really hit this on the head, and all weekend long I've been talking about, I've got the video, I know where this thing is going, I know what's on that ship, or I think I know what's on that ship. So on Monday I'm going to post a video and I'm just going to blow everybody away. And then this morning my wife and I were watching Tyler's Secure Team 10 channel, and sure enough, there is Tyler, and he's talking about some of the same stuff I'm going to talk about in a few minutes. But Tyler, you did a great job and you're really a smart guy, but there are some things you left out, and we're going to talk about those things right up very quickly. So again, if you guys watch Tyler's channel, Secure Team 10, it's really great, and they have a lot of nice information on it. And but I'm going to go into a little bit more detail here with things that Tyler may not know, or didn't have wanted to put into his video. But boy, Tyler, you really did a good job, especially connecting the Norman Bergeron thing. So nice job, Tyler, over at Secure Team 10. All right, so we need to talk about not what we think we know, but what we actually know about this object. Now, there's four things we know. Number one, this thing is long and cylindrical shaped. Number two, it's traveling at an incredible rate of speed, 3 times faster than most space objects. The next thing about it is that it has a unique color. According to scientists, this object is actually red. And the last thing that we need to discuss about this object is that it seems to be made up of mostly metal. Okay, and the last thing is not about particularly the object, but what the people at NASA named it. Okay, scientists have named this object Oumuamua, which means the messenger or the scout in Hawaiian. Okay, we're going to talk about that when this is over. But what an unusual name rather than giving it a number. Why does it have such a unique characteristics, and what is so symbolic about the name messenger or scout? We'll talk about that at the end of this. All right, the first thing we need to talk about is this object's speed. Scientists say it's going 2 to 3 times faster than a normal object would be traveling in space. So how did it get to this rate of speed? Well, there are probably 1 or 2 or 3 possible explanations. The first explanation is that if you know anything about Newtonian physics, when an object reaches a larger object, it is attracted to that object and it is pulled in, and that force makes it accelerate. And then, like in the case of the astronauts flying around the moon, they used the moon's gravity to slingshot themselves around and then back to the earth. So what happens when an object reaches the earth, like you or me, and we start falling to the earth? We just start falling, and that's what gravity is, where a body just starts falling. So if you fall and then you get shot back out into space, you get shot back out into space at the basically the same rate as you were falling. If you do this enough times over billions of years with no friction in space, an object it's possible theoretically for an object to just continue to accelerate over time. Okay, so that's one possibility. Another possibility for it traveling at this rate of speed is that it was blown off of something or was caught near an explosion and just sent flying off into space. So those are two possibilities. Now, the third possibility is a little bit out there, so put on your tinfoil hat. And before I say what I'm going to say, we're going to talk about the evidence that is out there that would support this maybe crazy theory. All right, so does everybody have your tinfoil hats on for this one? Crazy theory. That object reached its speed by itself, meaning that it was powered under its own source, which would entail that it is some kind of vehicle that is capable of traveling in outer space. So what happened to it? Okay, so the next thing we know about the vehicle is its strange shape. Now this vehicle is 400 meters long and it's 40 meters wide. Okay, now if you don't know what shape that represents, it would look something like this. Now, if you are any kind of UFO buff or person who follows the UFO phenomenon, you can tell me probably when the first time one of these objects was spotted, at least in the United States. And if you say the answer is 1896, that's correct. In Texas, one of these ships was sighted, and reportedly there were aliens that crashed and were buried in Texas that came from a ship like this. Okay, so where have we also seen this ship after 1896? Well, we've seen it in many photographs, these cigar-shaped ships, but one of the most famous instances is in Norman Bergeron's book. So who is Norman Bergeron, you might ask? Norman Bergeron worked for most of his life for NASA or the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. He's a highly respected physicist. And after seeing a UFO, he decided that he would study it a little bit, and based on the characteristics of the UFO, he came up with the idea that these cigar-shaped objects are actually what he calls EMVs, electromagnetic vehicles. And he thinks that they vary in size from large to the massive ships that he thinks, and in his book, The Ringmakers of Venus, or I'm sorry, The Ringmakers of Saturn, he says that these massive ships, which are way bigger than the size of the Earth, are actually producing an ammonia gas, which is really what the rings of Saturn are. It's just a byproduct of these electromagnetic vehicles. He also points out that these things operating in our solar system in our Earth's atmosphere is responsible for a lot of our depletion of our ozone layer. So here's a major NASA scientist and Jet Propulsion Laboratory figure who says that the rings of Saturn are being made by an alien civilization, what they would call a Type 3 civilization, which is able to use its galaxies or a solar system's sun and planets, use those forces for its own good. So what, right? So here's a possibility, right? Cigar-shaped ship on the moon, crash, something happened to it. Here's another ship in our solar system, flying in, flying out, just lifelessly. Something happened to it, maybe. Okay, the next place we need to look is we need to talk about what if, as Star Wars as this might sound, what if there were actually a series of conflicts going on outside of our solar system, in our solar system, that we know nothing about, that they pretty much do what they do and leave us out of the whole thing because we're not really of any concern to anybody. According to interviews posted on YouTube by a woman who claims that she had access to information of a nurse in Roswell, New Mexico, that interviewed one of the aliens from the Roswell crash in 1947. This alien, who they called Errol, spoke of two civilizations. She spoke of an entity called the domain, okay? And she was part of the domain. Now, the domain has been taking over from what she calls the old empire. And the old empire was here for billions of years. And at some point, according to this interview, in the Himalayas, the domain had a base. And the old empire ambushed the base and took everybody captive. And so here is one example. Here's an alien, if you buy into this, talking about an intergalactic war that's been going on for billions of years. All right, so let's summarize what we have so far. We have an object. It is flying around in space at an incredible speed. It is not the shape of most space objects because it is long and cigar-shaped, and just by the nature of objects flying around in space, things get hit, things get broken, things get rounded, and so you don't see anything of this dimensions in space. So this thing is definitely relatively new, like maybe a few million years, or it is definitely anomalous. All right, now let's talk about finally, why did scientists choose to give this object, this body that's flying through space at an incredible speed, why did they not give it a name like Speedy Gonzales or Zippy or Quickie Meteorite or something? Well, they gave it a strange name. They gave it a Hawaiian name, which means messenger or scout. So we all speak English, right? So a messenger does what? It tells us something. And a scout does what? A scout looks out for something for an advanced party. So there are three possibilities here. That object is just a lifeless rock that happened to zip into our solar system, flew around the sun, and now is flying out. And thank goodness it didn't hit us. Number two, that object is a meteorite. It is a chunk of something that blew off of something or was involved in an explosion. And the reason they call it the Scout is because it's the first of many objects that are coming behind it. So if this one came this close to the Earth, it came just between the Sun and Mercury, then what are other objects, if there are other objects behind it, going to do? Now that's a scary scenario. And finally, this is the tin hat scenario. So put on those tin foil hats. What if that object is full of dead aliens that died in an attack? They died for some reason, maybe biological, maybe nuclear, maybe something went wrong with their ship, but maybe like the Mary Celeste of the 1800s, maybe that ship is just floating around the galaxy waiting to find a home. We don't know because the government won't tell us. If you like mysteries like these, go ahead and check out Deceptions of the Ages. I'm Matthew Hines. This is Deceptions of the Ages News. We'll see you next time.